All right, class. Today we are going to talk about chapter 5. So basically from today, we actually started talking about the materials for midterm 2. So from today to until chapter 7 is basically midterm 2. So today we're going to talk about time value of money. So this is basically a very core concept for any finance classes. This is quite exciting and intriguing, and we're going to do a lot of problems that is related to time value of money concepts. So basically, starting from chapter 5 and chapter 6, we're going to do a lot of problems. And to solve these problems, we're going to need a couple of different instruments. So my recommendations. So basically, when you do time value of money, we actually do a lot of problems. For that, you need a lot of instruments. My recommendation, use financial calculator. If you can recommend, in the very first class, I actually talked about financial calculator. If you forget what it is, I'm talking about this one. So you have to purchase one financial calculator for this class. I talked about in the syllabus. So if you don't want to purchase financial calculator, your best friend is basically regular calculator. But I can tell you, if you don't have a financial calculator, you'll struggle a lot, because there are a couple of problems you should not be able to solve using regular calculator. So it's better you forget about regular calculator for this class and rely more on financial calculator. And other than financial calculator, I will teach you how to solve those problems in MS Excel. So basically, I recommend to use financial calculator for this class, but at the same time, learn how to solve this problem in MS Excel. So MS Excel is really used when you work in the company for any corporations. So after your graduation, if you join in any corporations, MS Excel will be a good friend for you to solve those problems, because those are really important even if you join any company. But I focus more on this one. Okay. So that's why I recommend all of you, like when you're watching this video, after you're done watching this video, I recommend all of you go to Blackboard, because if you go to Blackboard, you can see that I have uploaded some good lectures or good videos regarding financial calculator. You don't need to send me any email in the participation email regarding the financial calculator, okay? Only send the participation email based on the classes, like core topics, concepts we talked about. This is some supplementary material that's going to help you to understand how to be an expert in the financial calculator. Although I'll briefly go over the financial calculator in the class, but this video is going to help you to be master in financial calculator, because going forward from today, we're going to use financial calculator a lot, okay? So now moving on, and now let's talk about our class, our concepts. So before we jump onto the chapter 5, let's give you a heads up, a big picture, what we mean by time value of money. So basically, when in finance, we are actually more concerned about cash, not income, okay? Because income sometimes is not based on cash basis. So income means for a given period of time what you earned, but you may have received the cash before and after. But cash flow is basically what you got the cash, okay? So that's why, if you can remember a couple of classes back, we talked about cash flow from assets, right? Should be equal to cash flow to creditors plus cash flow to equity holders, right? So this is the important thing we mostly concerned about, cash flow from assets. So that's why when in finance, we are concerned about cash, we actually more concerned about amount of cash, okay? When you talk about investing in any projects, we are more concerned about the amount of cash invested, amount of cash going to be generated. But be careful. it is not only the amount of cash that is important, it is also the timing of cash that is also important. Timing of cash is also important. So that's why it's important to understand the timeline. So starting from today, when you want to solve any time value of money problems, your first job is to draw the timeline. So what does it mean by timeline? So let's say this way. This is a timeline. When you say 0, we are basically talking about today, okay? So when you say 0 in the timeline, you're talking about today, okay, or the beginning. When you say 1, we are talking about some time in future. So this could be 1 month, this could be 1 year, okay? 2 means sometime in more for the future, 2 months or 2 years. So for simplicity, let's assume for this problem, today, end of 1 year, end of 2 year, right? So timing of cash flows. Now let me explain why the timing of cash flow is also important. So let's think this way. You have a friend and your friend borrow $1,000 from you. And now he's offering you, he can pay the $1,000 right now today, which means here, or he can pay the $1,000 1 year later, which is here. So now you're thinking like, okay, right now I don't have any more big expenses. I believe I don't need $1,000. So it doesn't matter if my friend pays me today or if my friend going to pay me 1 year later, doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's not all the same. Let me explain why. So let's say Bank of Kirksville right now offering 10% interest annually. If you make any deposit in the bank, 10% interest. So that means if your friend give you the money today, okay? If your friend give you the money today, which is here, you can put $1,000 into the Bank of Kirksville. 1 year later, Bank of Kirksville is going to give you back 1,000 times 10% interest. Okay, this is the interest you're going to earn on your investment plus $1,000, right? Which is $1,100. Now, do you still think I don't need the money for any expenses right now? Doesn't matter, today versus 1 year later. You still think you want to say your friend, hey, give the money back 1 year later? If you say that, you are losing $100 interest on your investments. Make sense? So that's why it's not about the amount of money which is important, it's also the timing of money. When you're receiving the money or paying the money, that is also important. Because if you receive any money today, you can invest the money and you can generate some return over the period. On the other hand, if you can defer some payment in a future period, using that money, you can invest somewhere, earn something, then pay later in a future period, okay? So that's why it's also important the timing of the money. Now, what are some common names? Like what should we call this money in different time periods? So what should we call them? Any cash flows, any money today is known as present value. In short, PV. Any money in future period is known as future value. In short, FP. Okay. Now, the interest rate we use to convert cash flow from today to future is known as interest rate, discount rate, required rate of return, exchange rate, so many different names, okay? Now, you have to be careful. When you convert today's cash flow into a future cash flow, the process is known as compounding. So compounding means, the parallel meaning of compounding means something is growing, okay? If you look carefully, 1,000 grew to 1,100. This is called compounding. We're going to talk about the formula, okay? Talk about the formula and everything in details. This is called compounding. On the other hand, if you want to convert this future cash flow today, this is called discounting. Discounting means something is shrinking, okay? Going down. So this value is shrinking. So this is called discounting. So this is a big picture, time value of money. In a couple of words, timing of cash flow is also important because it can change. It can change the answer. Objective, okay? Timing of cash flow is also important. So that's why we need to understand same amount of money in different period of time does not work same, okay? Does not work same. Because you cannot say that $1,000 today is actually equivalent to $1,000 1 year later. No, it's not the same. $1,000 today is basically equivalent to, at this interest rate, $1,100 1 year later. So same money does not owe same in different period of time. And this concept is known as time value of money. We need to understand the timing of money too, on top of the amount of money. So this is the big picture, and this is what you're gonna do throughout the chapter 5. You want to know how can we convert some cash flows in a future date? How can we convert some cash flows in a current date, like today? And what is the appropriate rate we should use to convert or exchange these cash flows in different time periods? So this is time value of money. This is what you're gonna learn throughout the chapter 5. Let's go back to the slide. I think we understand what is present value, what is future value, what is interest rate. In the very first class, I explained you, finance is not tough if you understand the mechanics, okay, the process. It's easy to understand the process. The tough thing in finance is so many different words have same meaning, okay, and you have to memorize. So that's the tough thing, in my opinion. So we got through this. Now let's elaborate the process we learned so far. So let's say you invested $1,000, okay, for 1 year, 5% per year. How much interest you want to earn? You want to earn 5% interest on 1,000, which is $50. Your value, end of year 1, your value is principal plus interest, which is 1,050. This is basically the future value end of year 1, okay? Now you decided, I don't need the money. Why not? I invested for 1 more year. So basically, you already invested for 1 year. You want to invest it another year, 1 more year. So now look at the process. Look at the process. So now I need to explain this process. So basically, if you invest the money for 1 year, okay, 5%, let's come here. Let's make it small, okay, 1,000. So 1,000 into 1.05. So 1.05 means 1 is your principal, 0.05 is your interest, right? 1050. So that is your future value end of year 1. You decided, I want to keep the money for 1 more year. Now, there are basically 2 different ways your money will grow for year 2. One is you earn interest. You earn interest only on your principal. So that means for year 2, making sense? You earn interest only on your principal. Let me rewrite. That's going to make sense easily. So basically, you invested $1,000 year 1. sorry, year 0. Now investing this one, or you can say this is my interest. So this is my principal. This is my interest, right? So this is basically equivalent to this, right? Now for year 2, you can still earn interest on your principal. Now, if you can solve this problem, the value should be 1100. 1000 here, 50 here, 50 here. The value should be 1100. Okay. Do you think it's right or wrong? If we follow this process, so this process by definition means each year you only earn interest on your initial amount of investment, for this case, $1,000. So the future value end of year 2 is $1,100. Okay, future value end of year 2 is $1,100. So this process is called simple interest method. So this process is trying to tell you, we invested $1,000 at 0. You earn interest on $1,000 end of year 1. Now, the $50 you generated end of year 1, you consumed it, okay? You did not invest it for year 2. For year 2, you again invested $1,000 only. So that's why you're earning interest again on your investment amount of $1,000. So that's why 1,100, okay? On the other hand, in finance, we don't follow simple interest method. In finance, we follow compound interest method. Compound interest method. So compound interest method say that initially you earned interest on your initial investments, okay? Then the $50 you earn from here, you do not consume, okay? You invest this $50 again. So now you're earning interest on your earned interest. So basically, initially invested $1,000, you earned 5% on that. End of year 1, you have $1,000 plus the $50 you earned from your end of year 1 investments. Now for year 2, we are investing your initial $1,000 plus $50 of earned interest. So for year 2, you're investing this much and earning 5%. So that's why your value is basically this much. So this is called compound interest method. We can rewrite this equation in a different way. So this equation is trying to tell you for your initial investments, you're earning for 1 year 5%. Then again, you're earning for 1 year 5%. Make sense? Compound interest is trying to tell you you are also earning interest on your earned interest. Okay? You can also write this equation like this. Which is equivalent to, that's it. So if we want to rephrase simple versus compound interest, in a simple interest method, it tells that you only earn interest on your initial investment. Look carefully, only earn interest on your initial investment. In the middle of the period, if you earn any interest, you withdraw the money and consume it. That's why you only earn interest on your initial investments. In compound interest, it says that you never withdraw any money, you never consume any money. So that's why you earn interest, your initial investment, plus in the process, if you earned any interest, you're gonna also earn interest on that earned interest. So this is called compound interest method. Let's go back to the slide. So that's why if you want to invest this $1,000 for 2 years, this is gonna be your value. future value end of year 2. So that's why this is the formula. Okay. Future value is basically equal to present value times 1 plus r to the power t. I think so far you understand what is future value, what is present values, and r and t. Now I want to elaborate a little bit about this r and t. What does this r and t means? So basically, when you say r and t, oops, why it's not coming down? When you say R and T, you have to be careful. R means periodic interest rate. Now, what does it mean by periodic interest rate? In the finance industry or in finance, the convention is report the interest in terms of annual basis. So it's gonna say you 12% interest rate you're gonna earn. This interest rate is annual basis, okay, 12%. But your compounding frequency, so that means you want to earn interest how many times in a year. When you say compounding frequency, it's going to tell you how many times in a year interest will be deposited on your investment. Compounding frequency could be monthly, could be quarterly, could be semi-annually, okay, could be annually too. So compounding frequency in reality means it could be monthly, it could be quarterly, it could be semi-annually. I'm going to explain compounding frequency, what does it mean in coming classes, but just understand right now, compounding frequency. There's a term called compounding frequency that means how many times in a year you're going to earn interest, okay? Semi-annually and annually. So when you say compounding frequency, monthly means there are 12 months in a year, so it should be 12. 4 quarters in a year, it should be 4. Semi-annual means it should be 2. Annual means it should be 1. So this is periodic interest rate, okay? If in the problem it say 12% interest rate, this is annual interest rate, and it can mention monthly compounding, it can mention semi-annual compounding. So that means, let's say we're talking about 12% interest rate monthly compounding. In that case, periodic interest rate means, in that case, monthly interest rate. Makes sense? Monthly interest rate. How can you get the monthly interest rate? 12% divided by 12, because monthly frequency is 12, okay? 12%. Now change the problem. It said 12% annual interest rate, semi-annual compounding, okay? So in that case, your periodic interest rate is basically semi-annual interest rate. 12% divided by 2. Makes sense? 6%. So R means periodic interest rate. If not explicitly mentioned, interest rate is always mentioned in annual basis. And you have to understand from the problem is the frequency is monthly, semi-annually, quarterly, annually. And you have to adjust interest rate accordingly, okay? Now T means total number of period. So here total number of period means how many times for the entire investments interest will be added. How many times for the entire investment interest is going to be added. Now let's say if you want to make the investment for 2 years, and we are in a semi-annual mode, okay? 2 years, semi-annual mode. So that means 2 years times semi-annual divided equals to 4 times interest going to be added. So total number of period is 4. Now, if you say we want to invest the money for 2 years, but monthly compounding, so total number of period should be 2 times 12, which is 24. Or let's make it a little more clear in the notation terms, like how the notations are. So when you say R, that means annual rate divided by M. Here, M means number of frequency. Okay, number of frequency. For month, it's 12. For quarter, it's 4. For semiannual, it's 2. For annual, it's 1. Okay. Now, T means N times M. N means number of years. M means compounding frequency. So different books try to use big N. Some people do very small N, doesn't matter. Okay. Just understand the process. R means periodic, from the annual rate, depending on the number of frequency in a year, convert it to periodic rate. T means number of periods, from the number of years, depending on the periodic frequency, convert it to number of periods. That's it. So we are good so far for this. So this is how to convert future value from present value. So this area is also known as future value interest factor. Okay, future value interest factor. Effect of compounding, I believe I have talked about that. Now your job is to talk about or go through the slide. What is the difference between simple versus compound interest? Okay. Now, effect of compounding. Okay. This graph actually explains what is the effect of compounding. Now, if you look carefully, we are trying to talk about on the basis of this formula, okay? Future value is a function of what is the cash flow you want to invest today times interest factor. And it has two components, rate and time, rate and time. If you look carefully, future value, okay? And now, what is that? Here. So it's trying to tell you, when you talk about effect of compounding, if you have 0% rate, future value of $1 invested today. So you have to be careful in interpreting this graph. This is 0, okay? Here we invested $1. Here invested $1 and we're trying to reach what should be a future value when interest rate is 0%. Because if the interest rate is 0%, we are not earning any interest on our investment. So future value should be equal to the present value of $1, right? When the interest rate is 5%, future value will be more than the future value of from 0%. Interest rate is 10%, be more, 15% furthermore, 20% furthermore. We know what I'm trying to say. But the main thing, look at the graph, how they are curving toward upwards, So the interpretation, if the timing is more, like the investment year is more, and the interest rate is more, the effect of compounding is way, way, way higher. Because for a 10-year period, 0% interest, effect of compounding is nothing, same. For a 10-year period, 20% interest, effect of compounding is kind of more than 6 times. If you invest $1 today for 10 years, 20% rate, it's gonna be $6, more than $6, 6 times. So that means if you invest $1 million, more than 6 million. So that's what I'm trying to say from this graph. So effect of compounding, if the year is more and the rate is more, effect will be way more. So that's why the curve is bending towards upward. So if you go through these two examples, this is trying to say that. Suppose you invest $1,000 for 5 years, 5% rate, you have 76.28. The effect of compound is small because the period is small, not only 5 years, okay? Only 5 years, because effect of compounding means how it is different from simple interest methods. If you invest $1,000 for 5 years at 5% rate, on the simple interest method, the value is $1,250. On the compound interest method, the value is $1,276, only $26 more. Okay, so effect of compounding is the difference between how the future value on the simple interest versus compound interest. So the difference is only $26. But for 200 years, 5.5%, we are not talking about a way more interest rate, we're talking about a way more number of years. On the simple interest method, the value is 120. We're investing $10 for 5.5% interest rate for 200 years. On the other hand, the value is this much more on the compound interest, which is because of number of years. Impact is carving upwards. So in short, effect of compounding means how more your future value will be on top of the simple interest methods. And if the interest rate is more and the number of years is more, the effect is cumulative, way more, okay? So that's the idea. Now, future value as a general growth formula. So let's talk about this problem. Suppose your company expect to increase unit sales by 15% per year for the next 5 years, okay? If you currently sell 3 million, so we're not talking about cash flows, we're talking about your sales units, okay, in terms of growth. How many you can expect to sell in 5 years? Pretty easy. Each year grew by 15%. Now you're selling this much, 1.15 to the power 5. So you're expected to sell this much end of 5 years. Okay. Now let's pause the video from your end and try to solve these problems. And after that, match with me. So basically, I'll try to show you 3 different ways of solving these problems. Okay, 3 different ways. One is using formula or a general calculator. Second one is using functional calculator. Third one is basically using Excel. Make sense? 3 different ways. So I'm trying to load the Excel first. So you guys pause the video so that I can solve it in 3 different ways. Now, suppose you have 5,000 to invest today, right? So that means I'm talking about problem 1. Talking about problem 1. Present value is 500. You can earn 8% per year, nothing said, assuming annual frequency, nothing said, okay? So R means 8%, annual rate, nothing said, annual frequency, nothing said, annual frequency, 15 years. So some people do it N, some people do it T, doesn't matter, okay, same thing. But make sure this is total number of periods after adjusting for periodic frequency. How much would you have end of 15 years using compound interest? So future value should be a function of present value multiple 1 plus R to the power T, okay? Now plug in the values. Present value is 500 times 1.08, 8% the rate. You can solve the formula in the regular calculator. I think the value should be 15 times 500, 1586. Okay. Now let's talk about how to do it functional calculator. Okay. This is the functional calculator. N is this value, N slash T, this value, okay? 15. So this N means total number of periods from here. This is the rate, okay? Periodic rate. Be careful, periodic rate. It comes from here. Now, one of the weird thing in financial calculator, I don't know why, one of the weird thing in financial calculator, when you type in the rate, just type the absolute number, which is 8 for here. Don't do 8%. In real life, 8% means 0.08. Don't do that in financial calculator. In financial calculator, 8% means 8. That's weird. Everywhere else, everywhere, regular calculator, Excel, 8% means 0.08. Only in financial calculator, 8% means 8. Present value, 500. Now, in financial calculator, you have to be careful. When you say invest, invest means I'm putting down the money. It's coming out of my pocket. It's cash outflow, outflow. Do a negative sign. When you say invest, present value. When you say I'm going to get the money, it's inflow to me. Don't do negative sign, okay? For now, let's just assume payment is 0. Going forward, I'm going to explain what is mean by this payment. For now, let's assume payment is 0. Compute future value. Do you see that? Same thing. So basically what I did, let's redo again. Total number of periods 15 and 8, rate of return, period rate of return, present value, negative, payment, payment. That's it. Easy. You don't need to memorize formula. If you use financial calculator, never need to memorize any time development formula. How to do it in Excel. So basically the formula for Excel is future value formula is future value FV. FV is the future value formula. So basically what you're going to do, hit equal sign, type FV, hit tab sign, it's going to look like this. Hit the tab sign, it's going to look like this. Rate means periodic interest rate. 8%, 0.08. 0.08, don't do 8. N par is number of periods, N or T, total number of periods, 15. Payment, 0. Present value, 500. You can do negative here. Now it is asking for type. So let's do 0 for type. Did you see that? 1586.08. Makes sense? So now in financial calculator or in Excel, we are following compounding method because in finance, we don't do simple interest method. In finance, we do compound interest method. So future value formula in Excel is compound interest method, not based on simple interest method. And present value, future value from the financial calculator is also compound interest method, not simple interest method, okay? Now let's go back to the slides and do how much you should have using simple interest. So simple interest means we are trying to talk about problem 2. Let's do this way. We have some information, okay? So now we're trying to talk about problem 2. So we have changed the formula. So future value should be present value plus. You're gonna earn interest, right? You can say present value times R, only R times T. So basically 500 plus 500 times 0.08 times 15. So it should be 500 plus 15. You see that the difference is around $486. So this is problem 2. So if you look carefully, present value plus earning interest only on initial investment, only on initial investment. So this is interest for 1 year. This is interest for 1 year times 15, like 15 number of years. Make sense? So this is all about future value. So going forward, if nothing mentioned, we will be calculating future value following compound interest method. So basically we'll be doing either this one And same thing on the calculator and Excel, okay? Moving on. So moving on. Okay. Now, what is the present value formula? Because if we know future value, what is the present value formula? We can start with this formula and rearrange. So present value is basically future value divided by the interest factor divided by. So here's the thing. To convert to future value, we are multiplying. This is called compounding. To convert to present value, we are dividing. This is called discounting, okay? Discounting. So be careful. Now again, pause the video and then do with me, okay? Suppose you need 10,000 in 1 year. So that means future value end of 1 year is 10,000. 7% annually. So nothing mentioned. That means R equals to 7%. One is 1 already said. For now, we're going to say payment is 0. How much is present value, right? Right? How much is present value? If we do the formula method, so present value is basically future value 10,000 divided by 1.07 to the power 1, right? Just use this one, 10,000. So 9345.79. And if you type in this information on the function calculator, you'll get the answer. So when you use the function calculator, make sure clear first, okay? Clear. Now go over here. I'm just copying the information. N is 1, rate is 7. Present value need to calculate, don't type anything. Payment is 0. 10,000. So you're gonna receive, that's positive. You see that 9345.79? This is negative. This doesn't mean a negative value. This means investment from your end, outflow from your end, okay? So 9345.79. Make sense? You want to begin saving for daughter's college education and you estimate that she will need 150,000 in 17 years, 8% per year. How much do we need to invest today? How much? So we need present value. That's all right. So future value is 150,000 and it's 17. Nothing said, so annual frequency. R is 8%. And right now, just assume payment is 0. You can also use this formula too, okay? This formula too. So function calculators, again, clear. So N is 17, rate is 8. Payment 0, you will receive that cash flow should be positive. Compute present value. So 40,000. Answer is 40,540.103. That's it. Same here. Your parents set up a trust 10 years ago. That is now worth 19,000 something. If the fund earned 7% per year, how much did you plan to invest? So it looks like it's today is the value, but they invested negative minus 10. So 10 years before. So what if we say 10 years before is 0 and today is 10 years after, futures. Make sense? Then we can say, if we understand like this, we can say we need present value formula. We need this answer. Future value is basically 1967 1.51, and then N is 10, and then R is 7%, and payment is 0 so far, right? Okay. And let's do this one. Clear. N is 10, rate is 7, payment is 0, 1967.51, future value, compute present value. It's pretty close to 10,000, okay? So you can say pretty close to, or you can just say this 99990, okay, 9999 something like that. So yeah, so they invested maybe 10,000, and here's the value. Now we talked about the effect of compounding, right, in terms of interest rate and time, and we said that if interest rate is more and time is more, the future value is more. Now the relationship between present value and future value is inverse, because if we discount future value, we're going to get the present value, right? In that case, if we want to understand the relationship of present value with interest rate for any given interest rate, so let's say you have two projects, both are giving you 5% rate of return, but one project will give you $100 5 years later, and the other project will give you $100 8 years later, same interest rate, same future value. The longer the time, lower the present value. Longer the time, because if you receive the money way further, that means your T will be big. T will be big, this T will be big, and this will make this discount factor bigger. T is big, this will make the discount factor bigger. So for the same future value, same interest rate or discount rate, longer the time, present value is lower. Mathematically it makes sense because of this bigger T value, this will be a bigger value. Intuitively it makes sense because the way longer you are receiving the money, that means you're losing the opportunity to invest and earn some return. In the first example I talked about, your friend can give you $100 today versus 1 year later. If your friend giving you the money later, that means you're losing the opportunity to earn some return. So the way further someone is giving you the money, you're losing the opportunity to earn some return. That's why the present value should be less. For a given time period, same future value. For a given time period, higher the interest rate, smaller the present value. Makes sense. Because way it is more, it will make the discount factor more. So the present value gonna be less. Mathematically makes sense. Intuitively also makes sense. Because if you're receiving some cash flow in the future, you're losing the opportunity to earn return. Losing the opportunity to earn return. If the interest rate is more, you're losing the opportunity to earn more return. So that's why the present value will be less. So two important relationships. Similar future value, okay? Similar interest rate. If you have two projects, one will give you the money in a later period, present value should be less for that investment. Similar future value, similar length of time. Similar future value, similar length of time. If there are two projects, one is offering you higher interest rate versus the other, the present value is less for the project that is having higher interest rate. Make sense? So this is the important relationship. Now pause the video again and try to solve this problem. Then you guys can come back and match it, okay? So suppose you need to invest $15,000 for 3 years, 6% return annually. How much do you need to invest today? It's going to be easy, right? So basically on the calculator, clear it first. So 3 years, 6%, assume payment 0, 15,000 is future value, compute present value. So 12,594.28 cents. Okay. Makes sense. So for problem 1, 12,594.89. Now, if you could invest the money at 8%, would you have to invest more or less? Okay, let's see. Here. So 3 here, 8 here, payment 0. Future value, compute, etc. So 11,907.48. Yes, you will invest less. How much? Around, the difference is around 686 something, $686 of, I believe, 41 cents. That's the difference. So that's all for today's class. Next class, we're gonna finish chapter 5. Thank you.